Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Drive Talks. I'm here with Andy Bowen, missionary to Paraguay, and thank you so much for being on the episode with us.
It's my pleasure.
He is an amazing linguist, but before we get to that, I'm going to start with what I found to be a very interesting question, something I didn't know about him when I did some research about what we were going to talk about. You were born at Tenwick in Kenya.
That's right. Yeah, Tenwick is a cool place, and it still has some of the feelings of home for me.
Your parents were missionaries?
Yeah, my parents, they went singly to Kenya as missionaries, and they actually got married in Kenya. So when my dad first went, he was teaching at Tenwick Secondary School, and my mom was teaching in Cabosone. And then they got married and lived at Tenwick for a while, and so that was where I was born while they were living there.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie and why?
Well, I love The Lord of the Rings, even though it's like 100 hours long. I've watched it probably 6 or 7 times.
Wow.
Because it's apart from just being an epic story, and I love the books. I've read the books 2 or 3 times, but it's a story of a mission. You know, it's a story of real, genuine triumph through hardship, and it's triumph because each person that's involved does what they're uniquely gifted for, and it doesn't have to do with being particularly great in the way we often think about being great, but it has to do with being faithful, and that I think that's really what catches my attention time after time.
Wow, I never really thought of the movie that way. I just like how they killed horses.
Yeah, that stuff's cool too.
Yeah. Well, I wanted everyone at home to play a game with us. I thought would be fun. So, if you could say one of your favorite lines from The Lord of the Rings in the languages that you know, and then I'm gonna try, and they can try guessing what line it is from Lord of the Rings.
Okay. All right. Well, this is gonna. I'll start off in Guarani.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. Dere hasamo ai. How about that?
I don't know what it is.
How about this in Spanish? Tú no pasarás.
Okay, I think I have a better idea.
The Guarani one was going to be harder. How about in Swahili? Huwezi kupita! It's kind of scary, huh? In French, tu ne passeras pas!
So my guess is, I don't know what your guys' guess is. You can write in the comments what your guess is before you hear, but I think it's you shall not pass.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it? Yes. Just the way you yelled it, the emotion came through. It was like, yeah, it's gotta be. That is such an epic moment in the movie.
Well, you may not know that my other secret past training is in theater, so with me channeling my inner Gandalf.
That's pretty awesome. So speaking of, how do you say it?
Guarani.
Guarani.
Yeah.
So you are part of the Guarani. I'm gonna not pronounce that right either.
Yeah, Jopara
Institute.
Right.
So, what exactly is that about? What do you do with that?
Well, Paraguay is unique in Latin America in that we have 2 national languages. One of which, of course, is a European language, which is Spanish, and the other one is an indigenous South American language, which is Guarani. And because of social and historical factors, they've both grown up together since the earliest days of the Spanish colonization of South America. And over 90% of Paraguayans speak Guarani. So most Paraguayans are bilingual, at least to some extent. And you use Guarani in sort of home and relationship kind of situations, and you use Spanish in more formal interactions. But if you're working in rural Paraguay, and if you want to really get into relationship with people and really communicate to them that you value Paraguayanness, that you value them and their identity, then learning Guarani is essential. So we have a language institute where missionaries who are English speaking, so folks from North America or South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, come and spend 9 months learning Guarani before they go out to a rural posting.
Wow.
And so we work with missionaries of a broad variety of backgrounds, but that's the majority of my work. That's 5 days a week, 4 hours a day for 9 months at a time.
Wow.
Yeah. And in Paraguay is the kind of culture where just making an effort to learn Guarani opens doors, because they feel like, oh, you're interested in Guarani, you must be interested in me, because they identify so closely with that as their language.
Right. Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that. So you are with WGM. So why did you pick WGM out of all the other missions organizations out there?
Well, I grew up as a WGM missionary kid, and so that was that familiarness factor. But really, I guess one of the fundamental reasons that I'm back with WGM is a relational one, which is that when I was in university at Asbury, the folks that were the directors of the Student Center, Dick and Barb Barker, really welcomed me, made me feel a part, made me feel connected. And they were the ones that convinced me to go to Paraguay on a spring break trip my senior year.
Wow.
Yeah, and up till that point, I thought I was headed back to Africa. But God used that spring break experience to change my focus to a different part of the world. And really, the Barkers, humanly speaking, are the ones probably the most responsible for that after my parents.
Yeah, that's really cool. That just gives you an idea. Anyone who's thinking about a short-term missions trip or any type of visit or anything like that involved in missions, it can make all the difference in the way you view life and what you feel called to do and where you're called to be. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I believe in spring break trips. You know, there's some debate about whether these short-term trips are really valid and valuable. I think if they're done right, they can be real catalysts for missions in people's hearts and lives, because they're opportunities to get out of what you're familiar with. And it seems like those are the moments that God can speak more clearly without all the interference of the everyday. So I believe in them.
Yeah.
I promote them.
I think having that argument out there and understanding what the impact can be, both on yourself as well as the field, is really, really valuable to understand before you go on a missions trip.
Yeah.
So I do social media for World Gospel Mission, and I've been seeing a lot about this house project that you guys did and the church helped out with, and I wanted you to speak to that and kind of give our viewers that they've ever heard about it an idea what's going on there, because I just thought it was an awesome story.
Yeah, I think it's an awesome story too, because it really seems to me like something that wouldn't have happened unless God had brought people and circumstances together. We were planning to receive a team from Wilmore Free Methodist Church, which is my home church in Kentucky, and we have a construction project that's in the works because we're building two houses for students with families who are studying language with us, and so that was what we were going to have them work on. And a few weeks before that, some ladies in our community who are believers came to talk to me. They had been having a prayer meeting, and as a part of their prayer meeting, they felt God giving them a burden for a lady that lives in our community by the name of Estela. Estela is from an indigenous background, which is the way that they say Indian in South America. And these are the most marginalized members of society generally in Paraguay. Furthermore, this lady is a widow, and so she doesn't have a main provider, and she has a really, really precarious living situation. Her house is wood slats with huge spaces between them. When it rains, the rain comes in the side and in the roof, and her clothes get all wet and get rotten. And these ladies were just heartbroken by the situation. In fact, they had been over there to take some food gift from the church, and they had seen one of the little boys sitting on the ground eating in the dirt. And because Estela has no chairs, no table, no furniture of any kind except for one bed, and they just were broken up about this, and they said, "Don Andy, what can we do about this? We have to do something." And as we talked about it, the thought came to us that maybe we could have this Wilmore Free Methodist team repurpose and build a small house for Estela and her family. And we began to contact the people that we needed to contact. The group got excited about it. The church got excited about it, even though they had been gearing up to do this other project. And then we put a campaign on Facebook and started raising money to buy a small piece of land that a lady offered us, because the house, even the land where Estela's house was located, didn't belong to her, and so we couldn't build anything permanent there. To buy the property and to build the house, we were going to raise, I think it was $3,600 or something like that.
Yeah.
And several people gave, and then somebody that we had never met, who was a contact of another missionary friend in Paraguay, gave the vast bulk of that and finished that off within the course of, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 days after we put it up. And so God just provided that miraculously. And we got the materials together, and the church there started getting excited about it, and the team came down, and we built this. It's very basic, but it's so much more solid and more protecting from the elements than what she has currently. So they got to meet Estela and her family. They got to meet some of the neighbors. In fact, one of the neighbors that isn't even a believer, not involved in the church, came over and volunteered his time almost the whole time the group was there to build this house. So it was something that the church saw. It was something that the neighborhood saw. A lady from the other side of the community commented to me just a few days ago, commented to somebody else in my presence, "This is Don Andy. He's such a good person because he's building a house for Estela." And I was able to say, no, it's nothing to do with what a good person I am, but it's because God has brought people together to do what one person alone couldn't do.
Right.
And so it's a blessing to a widow, very close to God's heart. It's something that the church there initiated. It's something that the church in the United States and we were able to partner with. And it's something that the community sees and goes, what is going on here? What is this about? And so I think it's, on so many fronts, it's a win and a source of glory to God and blessing to His people. And it's a joy to have been a part of it. They're not quite finished yet. I've been in the States for a few days, and Pastor Dani, the pastor of our local church, has been finishing it up and sending me some pictures. But it's close. I think in another week or two she'll be able to move in.
Wow.
Yeah, so just before it gets cold, because winter's coming.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's amazing. So she and her kids will have a place to stay.
That's right.
That's
right. And she's been going over there every day with her kids to help out with little tasks on the construction site. So she's really taken ownership and responsibility, and it's been a beautiful thing to see. I think she's attended church occasionally, but I think this more than anything has showed to her what the gospel is about, that it's love demonstrated, love tangible and visible. And I think she's I love what Dan Schaefer says, when Jesus saw the people who were harassed and helpless, what that made him think was, these people are ready for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly the situation that Estela's in. When you see hurt and brokenness, and proclaim the kingdom, people are ready to receive it. That's the white harvest right there.
Yeah, amen. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's why I love that. Those types of stories are what excites me about my job and what I do, because I get to hear about that and spread the word and just let people know, hey, World Gospel Mission is just part of God's bigger plan. Like,
yes.
You can join in, and we're happy to be part of it, but we're not the ones doing the work.
Right. Exactly.
It's God doing the work.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And when everybody is obedient to do the task that they've been uniquely given, the kingdom of God gets advanced. When we're not all guarding our own little kingdom, but we're genuinely obeying His leading and working together, that's when the exciting stuff happens.
Well, the next question I had was, in every country there is certain cultural things, certain practices that happen on a daily, weekly, yearly basis. What specifically have you learned from Paraguay that you think would be valuable to bring to the United States, to like a certain attitude or culture or tradition or something like that, that we may not necessarily practice here?
I love how hospitable Paraguayans are, particularly rural Paraguayans, and how they will really genuinely feel honored by your visit, no matter when it is, no matter what it's interrupting. Most of the time, Paraguayans are going to receive you joyfully and graciously. And what's incredible is that that's sometimes even more true for foreigners, which I don't always see in other places in the world. Just the feeling of being honored because a foreigner has come to visit. And I think that hospitality is definitely something that we as a culture could take a couple notes from.
Yeah.
The emphasis on relationship and just spending time together. I mean, that's obviously related to that, but every cultural pro has an associated con, and you could concentrate on the negative. But I think in our culture here in North America, we tend to be very task oriented.
Yeah.
Whereas in Paraguay, just relationship is first, almost in every case.
Yeah. That is definitely something we could use a little more of. The field is growing. I think I mentioned the Men with Vision project. You need a place for missionaries to stay, because so many are coming and learning the language, and them being able to stay overnight and travel and these different things. What opportunities are in Paraguay? What is out there that people could grab hold of and get involved in?
Well, a couple of roles that we're particularly looking for. We're committed to partnering with the national church that we work together with, which is called Iglesia Evangélica Mundial, the World Gospel Church in Paraguay, to help them look around them in the communities where they're located and see what needs the gospel has uniquely suited them to address. How they can minister to people in practical, tangible ways. A little bit like building the house for Estela, but it wouldn't necessarily look like building something. You know, how they can leverage the resources that God has uniquely put in their hands, either actual physical resources or human resources, in order to meet the needs of their community. Not to manipulate people to come to church,
Right.
but just because showing love is what Jesus does, and
Right.
showing love is what the church is for. And so, together with the proclaiming piece of the gospel, the demonstration piece. And so we're looking for people that would be able to be creative, to partner with pastors, to sit with pastors and with churches, and to say, how is it that we can minister, not necessarily bringing in a lot of resources from outside, but how is it that God has uniquely placed you to minister to some of these needs that you see around you?
Yeah.
A lot of our folks that we partner with are convinced, but they need some ideas, some encouragement, some training in this area. Another thing that we're looking for is English teachers. It's the thing that I get asked for most often by Paraguayans. Could you teach English? In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, the mayor of Escobar, where we live, sent a messenger to me saying, could you teach my kids English? And I had to turn it down, which isn't probably the best move, but if we had English teachers right now, we would have jobs for them.
Wow.
So those are a couple roles that we definitely can have a big need for.
Yeah.
We also need a field administrator, and sometimes that's not the most exciting role, but it is a role without which the other things can't happen. And our field treasurer is about to go on home assignment, and we really need people that can do those administrative tasks. Missions, I heard somebody say this week, if it's a job that's legal, we can use it in missions.
Wow.
And it's true, you know.
Yeah.
That sometimes people think, well, how can God use me? You know, I'm this or I'm that.
Yeah.
But God has a place. If He has a calling for you, there's a place where you can serve Him in missions.
Awesome. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining me for this episode and just sharing with me about Paraguay. It's been really fun. And thank you guys for watching. If you are interested in missions, interested in Paraguay, contact us. There'll be a link down below as well as in the description. And thank you so much again, and have a great day. So Andy told me this would be a really good road we're about to drive on that could simulate what it's like to drive in Paraguay. So we're gonna give this a whirl and see what it's like. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Wow. Is this really what it's like?
More or less.